Imagine a truly daring, high-stakes clandestine operation. But not just about gathering secrets. This was about exposing them, really, to the entire world.
Yeah, quite something.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into this extraordinary event where espionage basically collided head-on with public diplomacy right on the global stage. Our mission today, really, is to unpack the incredible story of the Mossad's theft of Iran's secret nuclear archive.
It's a fascinating one.
We'll explore the unprecedented decision to actually publicize this intelligence, the meticulous, almost obsessive preparations behind that press conference.
For the big reveal.
Exactly. And the profound, lasting ripples it sent, across international policy and the whole fight against nuclear proliferation.
And you're right, this was such a radical departure from standard intelligence practice. A huge one.
Why was that?
Well, we'll examine exactly how this uniquely acquired intelligence was then strategically used, wielded almost like a weapon, and the intent, the ongoing debate that followed about whether it was strategically wise.
Okay.
So get ready for an inside look at this really fascinating intersection of covert ops, public opinion, and, well, the balance of global power.
So with that dramatic stage set, let's dive into the geopolitical backdrop. This is 2018 we're talking about.
Right.
Behind the scenes, there were these quiet diplomatic efforts happening, things that would eventually lead to the Abraham Accords.
Those historic deals, between Israel and nations like Saudi Arabia, the UAE.
Exactly. But running parallel to that, Israel was pushing the Trump administration really hard.
Very hard.
To withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA. The goal seemed clear. Ramp up sanctions, get a freer hand to target Iran's nuclear program, maybe even officials like Soleimani, Fakhrizadeh.
And the major strategic move, the one tying all these threads together, came on January 31st, 2018.
The heist itself.
The Mossad's theft of the Iranian nuclear archive. The Israelis, they really hoped this would catalyze a decisive shift in public opinion toward Iran.
So it wasn't just about having the intel.
No. And what's truly remarkable here, maybe even more than the raid itself, is what happened after those documents. Tens of thousands of pages and diagrams made that journey.
From Tehran to Azerbaijan, then Israel.
Right. And then the Farsi reading analysts started digging in.
This is where it gets really, really interesting for me. Normally, an operation like this, special forces involved, massive scale.
Top secret for decades. Absolutely.
Yeah, it would stay buried. It's not just security. It's protecting sources, methods, future ops.
Standard practice.
The usual way is you discreetly share bits, maybe, with close allies. The U.S., the Europeans, and the JCPOA.
Just the need-to-knows.
But Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Mossad chief then, Yossi Cohen, they decided on something completely different. Radical, really, unprecedented.
And that raises the big question, why? Why go public?
Exactly.
Cohen, looking back on it later, he gave a pretty powerful reason. He said, how you use intelligence is even more important than the intelligence itself.
That's quite a statement from an intelligence chief.
Isn't it? He felt it was critical, his word, critical to send a clear message to the Iranians that they had been penetrated, they are being watched, and they cannot continue lying to the world.
So multiple objectives.
Absolutely. Not just proving the depths of Iranian deceit, as they put it, but also legitimizing Israel's ongoing campaigns against Iran's nuclear program, economic, psychological, covert actions.
So using the intelligence openly as a tool of statecraft.
Precisely. A fundamental shift from quiet whispers to a very loud public pronouncement. Intelligence as a weapon in plain sight.
So, okay, the decision's made, go public. But turning this mountain of classified documents, raw intel, into a global PR bombshell, that's a whole different challenge.
Monumental one. Netanyahu, who everyone knows is pretty savvy when it comes to PR.
He has a reputation, yes.
He put together a specialized team, led by his military secretary, Eliezer Toledano.
And who did Toledano bring in?
His very first recruit was Yarden Vadakai, Netanyahu's public diplomacy chief.
Ah, the PR guy.
A very seasoned PR veteran. Someone who'd worked with Mossad regularly, knew the landscape.
And his reaction when he heard the plane?
He described it himself. He said, I was super shocked. It was mind-blowing. He thought he'd seen everything working with intelligence professionals for years.
This was different.
This was totally different. Off the charts.
And Netanyahu's instructions to this team must have been pretty direct.
Crystal clear, apparently. He told them, your job is to get ready to present the operation's accomplishments to the broadest and most diverse possible global audience.
Not just the key players.
No, it's not enough just to present this to Trump. We need to present this to the world. And Vatikai also said it was understood a major goal was to destabilize and wreck the very bad nuclear agreement with Iran.
So a clear political objective alongside the reveal.
Undeniably. But the task itself was immense. You have Europe, for instance, really keen on keeping the nuclear deal alive.
Right, they saw it differently.
Very differently. So the team, David Keyes was involved, Netanyahu's English language spokesman, Mossad people, others. They faced this huge challenge, just translating mountains of nuclear material in Farsi.
That alone must have taken time.
It did. It significantly delayed the whole public reveal.
Now, with such high stakes and different groups involved, intel guys, PR people, I have to imagine there were some internal clashes, tensions.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the really intriguing parts. This constant internal struggle, this push and pull.
Between
the intelligence officials,
Yep.
focused purely on the intel value, protecting sources, protecting methods.
the traditional spy's perspective.
Exactly. And then the PR experts like Vatikai, who just wanted material that would, pack a public relations punch, make headlines.
Can you give an example of that, class?
A key one was over naming Iranian nuclear scientists.
Putting faces to it.
Precisely. The Mossad was worried. They feared it would give away hints about their sources, how they operated, compromise things.
Understand.
But Vatikai insisted. He said, it was very important that we name Fakhrizadeh. The public deals with people. His argument was connecting faces and names to the organizations would have a major public impact, make it relatable, make it stick.
Makes sense from a PR perspective. How involved was Netanyahu personally in resolving these kinds of debates?
Deeply involved. Met with the team every week, and he kept hammering his core message. Always focus on the message. The world must understand that Iran lied and continues to lie.
Laser focus.
And he was apparently worried about it being boring, just a dry intelligence briefing.
He wanted drama.
He demanded it. I want something very strong visually, with images that help tell the story, he said.
What about showing the actual stolen documents? Was that debated?
It was. The compromise was to bring copies, not the originals. Security reasons, obviously.
Right.
And here's that amazing detail. Netanyahu apparently balked when he saw some copies were pink.
Pink.
Until Vatikai explained, probably smiling, that was the actual color of many of the stolen Iranian documents.
You're kidding. Iran's nuclear secrets were pink.
Apparently so. It's almost surreal, isn't it?
It really is. Just adds another layer of weirdness to it all. So, okay, the presentation's coming together. What about secrecy around the event itself?
Paramount. Absolutely paramount. The press conference was announced only 3 hours before it started.
Just 3 hours. Wow.
Specifically to cut down the chance of leaks. And Vatikai apparently went to great lengths, using personal connections to sort of hide the Mossad technicians setting up the AV equipment at the Defense Ministry.
To stop people asking questions.
Exactly. Prevent questions, prevent leaks, total lockdown.
And the rehearsals. I mean, for something this big.
Obsessive is probably the right word. And Heziah practiced his speech, reports say, as many as 15 times.
15.
15. He even brought in Mark Rezhev, who was ambassador to the UK then, considered him the best explainer for Israel.
Wow.
Rezhev apparently worked day and night, 3 days straight, just refining the wording, polishing every phrase.
That level of dedication. It's intense. There's that story about Vatikai, right? During this time.
The promotion ceremony?
Yeah.
Yeah, it tells you everything about the pressure cooker environment.
What happened?
Vatikai was due to be promoted to lieutenant colonel, IDF headquarters. His whole family was there.
It's a big moment for him.
Huge.
Yeah.
But he was stuck in rehearsal with Netanyahu, who insisted on just one more run-through.
No way.
Yes. Vatikai ended up being over an hour late for his own promotion ceremony.
What?
They actually gave the rank, the award, to his wife and ate all the refreshments without him.
That is absolutely wild. You can just feel the pressure through that story. So even with all that insane preparation, any last-minute scares, glitches.
Of course. It's live, high-stakes theater. Just before they went on, Netanyahu's microphone wasn't working.
Oh, boy.
Vatikai apparently had this recurring nightmare from rehearsals. He worried Netanyahu would dramatically pull the cover off the archive discs and knock him all over.
Which had happened before.
Frequently in rehearsal. So yeah, even down to the wire, there were nerves.
Okay, so the decision's made. The presentation is rehearsed to within an inch of its life. But before going public, the most critical audience was the U.S., right? Convincing Trump.
Absolutely. Before the big public reveal, Cohen and his team focused heavily on the Americans. The goal, simple. Use this stolen information to get them to pull out of the nuclear deal.
And did Cohen wait long?
No time at all. He called Secretary of State Mike Pompeo immediately after the theft. Pompeo later called the operation something that redefined daring and boldness. He was already pretty much convinced the deal was fundamentally flawed.
So Pompeo was receptive from the start.
Seems so.
When did Trump himself actually see the goods?
That was March 5th, so about a month and a half before the public show. Netanyahu and Cohen went to the Oval Office, showed Trump a short video summarizing the main findings.
And Trump's reaction?
Very telling. He basically said he was already on their side. He pointed to other officials in the room, McMaster, others presumably, and said something like, maybe they needed to see this. I didn't. I've already decided to leave the deal.
So his mind was made up even before seeing the proof.
That's what he indicated, yeah. The administration itself wasn't unified on this, was it?
No, definitely not. There was a significant internal debate raging.
Right. National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, for instance. He acknowledged the archive proved Iran couldn't be trusted, sure.
No.
But he argued for staying in the JCPOA, using the threat of withdrawal as leverage.
A different strategy.
A very different strategy. But then, crucially, 3 weeks before Netanyahu's press conference, Trump fired McMaster.
And replaced him with?
The ultra-hardliner, John Bolton.
Ah, Bolton.
Bolton immediately saw the archive material and called it dynamite, a potential game changer. That switch, McMaster out, Bolton in, undeniably paved the way for Trump's ultimate decision.
So the stage is set, the key U.S. players are aligned, or at least the crucial one is replaced. Then comes the reveal itself, April 30th, 2018, 8 p.m. Israel time.
Timed perfectly for primetime news. Netanyahu walks out. Starts with video clips, Iranian leaders denying any nuclear weapons program.
Setting the scene.
Exactly. Then, the dramatic moment. A curtain pulled back, 2 words flashing on a giant screen. Iran lied.
Very simple, very direct.
Very effective. Then he just calmly, methodically went through it. Slides, photos, videos, microfilm, blueprints.
Laying out the case.
Arguing this was irrefutable proof that Iran's comprehensive program to design, build, and test nuclear weapons had never actually stopped, despite what the JCPOA required.
And the impact in Israel.
Huge. Considered one of the most dramatic news events in Israel in years.
Yeah.
And certainly Netanyahu and Cohen saw it as one of the most profoundly effective public presentations of intelligence aimed at shaping policy.
A triumph in their eyes.
Absolutely.
Right.
But as we're about to discuss, not everyone shared that view. Not even close.
Right. That claim of effectiveness, it wasn't universally accepted, was it? Especially the wisdom of going public.
Not at all. Critics immediately jumped on it, accusing Netanyahu of basically serving his own political needs, using this massive intelligence coup for domestic gain.
And internally, within the Israeli system.
Even there, some very senior officials were reportedly furious. Lieutenant General Eisenkot, for example, the IDF chief of staff at the time.
What was his issue?
He apparently stated Netanyahu had promised him he'd keep the operation classified, that the plan was only to share the findings discreetly with friendly intel services with the IAEA.
But Netanyahu changed course.
Eisenkot said he only found out about the plan to go public hours, literally hours, before the press conference. He was livid.
Wow. And Cohen's predecessor? Pardo.
Tamir Pardo, yeah, former Mossad chief. He was apparently impressed by the operation itself, the tactical success. But incensed is the word used by the publicity. He feared it compromised Israeli intelligence sources and methods long term, and that it just unnecessarily poked a finger in the eye of the Iranians, raised the stakes dangerously.
So serious reservations from very senior figures. How did Cohen defend the decision against that kind of criticism?
Cohen remained absolutely adamant. Privately, he apparently dismissed Pardo's caution as spineless.
Strong words.
Very. He argued the publicity was totally justified. It was needed to influence the U.S., yes, but also the IAEA, the Europeans, and importantly, to sow chaos and confusion inside Iran, make them wonder how their security was so badly breached.
That famous quote of his comes to mind.
Right, about the intelligence trove. Put it in the Place de l'Étoile as far as I'm concerned.
Basically, display it publicly in Paris. Let the world see.
Exactly. He clearly believed the impact of the public reveal outweighed any operational security risks.
Okay, so regardless of that fierce debate about how it was revealed, let's talk about the what, the actual content. The sheer scale is mind-boggling.
It really is. We're talking 55,000 pages of documents, 50,000 files on 183 CDs. It was reportedly more original intelligence than Mossad had ever gotten in one go before.
Just a massive haul. And what did it fundamentally prove?
It utterly demolished Iran's constant claim that its nuclear program was purely for peaceful civilian use.
Yeah.
That was the big lie. This proved, definitively, Iran did have a secret weapons program, Project Ahmad, and that they had actively destroyed documents, sanitized sites, to hide it.
Now, some of this was suspected before, right, by the U.S., others?
Suspected, yes.
Yeah.
But the difference here was the authenticity. The sheer volume of primary source material from inside Iran's own program. It made further denials practically impossible.
There was that quote from a senior intel officer.
Right, who briefed the media. Said the trove provided evidence on a whole different level because it was irrefutable.
And he also mentioned they couldn't even show everything.
Exactly. Couldn't make public all the truly incriminating photos because they literally show how to build an atomic weapon. That tells you how detailed and sensitive this stuff was.
So what was truly new in the archive? Stuff that wasn't even suspected before.
One of the most critical finds, strategically, was a map showing 5 previously unknown secret nuclear test sites, plus other related facilities.
5 new sites, that's huge.
It was huge. It wasn't just a footnote. It gave Western intelligence this crucial new roadmap. It allowed them to track suspicious activities much better, understand the real scope of Iran's hidden work.
And Netanyahu's presentation, it got very specific about the goal, didn't it?
Extremely specific. He showed Iran's clear goal was to build 5 nuclear warheads, each with a 10-kiloton yield.
And he had a slide for that.
A slide prominently captioned, 5 warheads, 10 kilotons TNT yield on a missile. Presented as undeniable calculated threat, no ambiguity.
Now, some technical details, people pointed out, could be found in earlier IAEA reports, like from 2015.
True, some technical elements weren't entirely novel in concept, but the archives provided the irrefutable original documentation.
The smoking gun documents.
Exactly. For instance, it directly contradicted specific claims Iran had made to the IAEA, like about not doing work on shockwave generators crucial for triggering a nuke. The archive showed they had done that work.
So even if elements were known or suspected, the archive provided the hard, undeniable proof from Iran's own files.
Precisely. The specific, authentic proof was new and devastating. It blew away plausible deniability.
Which brings us to the immediate aftermath. Unsurprisingly, Donald Trump seized on Netanyahu's presentation.
Warmly welcomed it, yes. Used it as the primary justification for pulling the U.S. out of the nuclear deal, which he did just over a week later, May 8th, 2018.
And his statement.
He declared, at the heart of the Iran deal was a giant fiction. Today we have definitive proof that this Iranian promise was a lie. He directly linked his decision to the archive reveal.
A hugely consequential move, praised by some.
Praised by Republicans, parts of Israel's establishment, sure, but highly, highly controversial elsewhere.
Very controversial.
Most Democrats, including Joe Biden, vigorously opposed it. Biden later said, the bottom line is that Iran is closer to a nuclear bomb today than it was when Donald Trump took office.
And Cohen's predecessor, Pardo, the one who was incensed by the publicity.
He called Trump's withdrawal a catastrophe. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
He lamented the fact that there was no plan B, just withdrawal.
So a really sharp divide on the consequences of that decision. What about the IAEA, the International Nuclear Watchdog? This must have put them in a tricky spot.
A very awkward position, yes.
Yeah.
The IAEA is supposed to be the ultimate authority on nuclear activities, but its director general then, Yukiya Amano.
Yes.
He seemed, after 2015 and the JCPOA deal, more focused on just preserving that deal. He'd even declared Iran's past military dimensions and the PMD file a closed issue.
And then Mossad drops this bombshell archive.
Exactly, producing strong primary evidence of actual Iranian cheating on those past activities. Amano seemed, well, in no rush to admit the IAEA might have closed the file too soon or that Iran had lied to them.
There's that incident with the Turksabad site.
Right. September 2018, Netanyahu publicly reveals, again using archive info, that traces of illicit uranium had been found at this secret nuclear warehouse in Turksabad. Information Israel had given the IAEA months before.
And Netanyahu called them out.
He did. Charged that the IAEA still has not taken any action, put them on the spot publicly.
When did the IAEA finally inspect it?
Not until April 2019. More than a year after Israel first tipped them off.
Over a year. Why the delay?
Amano's public line was that the IAEA needed time to independently verify information from third parties, meaning Israel. He also gave this rather defensive speech, stressing the agency's credibility and warning against attempts to micromanage or put pressure on the agency.
Didn't sound like he appreciated Netanyahu's public pressure.
Not at all. And the impression that the IAEA wasn't eager to pursue violations was kind of reinforced by leaks later. Leaks suggesting the IAEA did find radioactive material at Turksabad, but was hesitant to publicize it.
So while the IAEA was deliberating, what was happening with the U.S. and Iran?
The Trump administration kept tightening the screws, ended waivers for countries buying Iranian oil in May 2019 maximum pressure.
And Iran's response?
They started to push back, began new violations of the nuclear deal themselves, building up their enriched uranium stockpile, eventually reaching near bomb-grade levels by March 2020. The situation escalated significantly.
And finally, going back to the archive itself, that map of previously unknown sites you mentioned, the stuff not shown publicly, how important did that become?
Critically important, according to reports, for the Mossad's ongoing covert operations. Armed with this new, detailed intelligence about hidden locations and activities,
They had new targets.
they had a much clearer picture. Reports suggest the Mossad went on to strike Iran over and again in the following years, directly leveraging the secrets gained from that incredibly audacious heist. The archive kept giving.
What a journey then. From a dusty warehouse raid in Tehran to this meticulously staged, globally broadcast press conference.
Pink files and all.
Pink files and all. And then this resulting global political earthquake. The Mossad's theft of the archive and its public reveal, it really just lays bare the complex dance between spies, diplomats, and politicians, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It highlights the profound impact an intelligence operation can have, not just in secret back channels, but when its findings are deliberately, strategically weaponized out in the open.
But the debate continues.
Oh, absolutely. The debate rages on about whether the benefits influencing Trump, exposing Iran, outweigh the risks to operational security, the potential for retaliation, the damage to diplomatic efforts.
We saw how this act, meant to expose deceit, itself became this huge point of contention. And it led to really profound shifts in alliances and policies, like the U.S. leaving the JCPOA.
Definitely. So, thinking about all this, what's the takeaway for you listening now? Maybe consider this. We live in an age of information overload, right?
Yeah.
Truth itself feels contested. So how does deliberately revealing highly classified secrets, even if the intent is claimed to be noble, how does that act itself reshape our understanding of truth? How does it influence policy? And perhaps most importantly, what unforeseen consequences might it create down the road in our very complex geopolitical